Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I want to welcome you to our civil engineering community meetup. And I have with me today Sean Hulbert and Tim Yaris, who will be joining very shortly. He was having some issues with the go-to invite, so we'll see him in just a minute. While we're waiting for everyone to join, though, I would love to find out where you are in the world. So if you could open up your question and answer panel and just type in really quickly for me where you are joining from. All right, Michael is coming in from Goshen, New York. Welcome, nice to have you here. Carrie from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Kevin, oh, it's coming in quick now. I've got to read faster. Kevin from the UK, Derek from Ireland, Eduardo from the UK. It's nice to have all of you here. Oh, it looks like Tim is stuck in another part. Let me have him join us in the staff side. 1 second here. So interesting that he got stuck over there. Okay, Tim, are you with us now?
I sure hope so.
Ah, yes, I can hear you. That's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Excellent. Well, I'm so glad you joined us. So we are going to be having a discussion with Tim Yaris today. He is one of the product managers for the infrastructure side, and he'll be telling us what's new, what just came out. And so I'm glad that everyone is here with us. We're going to give everyone a few more minutes to join. We did have a large number of people registered, and I see the numbers still rising. So we'll give them a couple of minutes to get logged in, get their audio working. And in the meantime, I still want to keep shouting out to people who have joined. I see Lauren from British Columbia, and I apologize if I say names wrong. I see Narendra from India, Juan from Colombia, Bob from Zion, Illinois. I wonder if Zion, Illinois is as beautiful as Zion in Utah. Let's see, who have I missed? I know I've missed quite a few. Ishan from Varanasi, India. Great. Let's see, I think I caught you. Oh, we've got quite a few from India, so welcome. I'm so glad to see the global audience. This always excites me to know that we're able to help everyone on a global level, so that's great. All right, Tim, I am going to just go through a couple of orders of business before I make you presenter, if that's okay. And so with that, while a few people are still joining it, the numbers are starting to level out. So maybe I'll just go ahead and go through those orders of business really quick while people are still joining. Again, Michelle Rasmussen here with you. I'm within the customer success organization on the learning services side. And it's my job to make sure you have the learning content you need to be able to do your job better and faster. All of you are probably very familiar with Sean Hulbert as well. He usually presents. This month, he's just going to be in a supporting role, helping me with questions as Tim Yaris from our product team is showing us what's new in the software, what just released. And so it's been, what, maybe a month now, Tim?
That's right. Yep, just came up April 15th.
April 15th. Yeah, so yeah, almost exactly a month and 4 days. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so just really quickly, since we are talking about new features, just in case Tim shares with you some information that might be, up and coming, I do want to share with you the safe harbor statement. Basically, anything that we say in here is not a promise of new features that will be coming. So don't make any buying decisions based on information you see in here. But we do try to give you the most up-to-date information so that you are informed of what is new, what is coming, and all of that. So your lines are muted just to reduce the background noise. We are recording this so that you have it to go back to later on if you see something that really hits you and you want to try it, as well as if you want to share it with your coworkers. Although it's muted, we do highly encourage participation. So that's why I have you start out by telling me where you're from in that question answer panel, so you can get used to using that and ask your questions through that question answer panel. Or if you have the audacity, I don't know, I'm trying to find the better word, that's not what I'm really looking for, but if you have the nerves to speak up and ask your question live, not a lot of people have the guts to do that. So if you do, I would love to unmute your line and have a real conversation with everyone. So we do highly encourage that participation because, like I said, this is a conversation with our product manager, Tim Yaris. And as you have questions, if Tim is in a good spot for me to interrupt him, I will jump in with questions that are very relevant at that moment. Otherwise, we'll save them till the end so that he can get through his presentation and then have that conversation very fluidly. All right, so Tim, I'm going to go ahead and make you presenter at this moment.
Great.
All right, now you should be able to share your screen.
All righty then. Let me know, please, Michelle, if you can see my PowerPoint.
I am not yet. Now it's showing. I'm actually seeing the presenter screen instead of the slide.
I'm sorry.
We're seeing both screens, Tim.
Both screens.
Yeah, yep.
No good at all. All right. Let's see what else I can do here. How about
Michelle? Could you share the Q&A so I could help with that?
Yep, absolutely.
This is never fun doing this.
Seeing all of your PowerPoint there.
Huh.
Yeah, we see the end of it now.
The end of it. Well, that's
just one screen. We're seeing the Autodesk make anything.
One more here. Presenter view. That's not what I want. Like a well-oiled machine here, right?
Now we're seeing the presenter page. So just do your display settings.
No.
No. Just display settings and swap.
All right. I'll see if that works. No?
Nope, still seeing them all.
Oh, I hate when this happens. Let's see here. All right, I've really done this before, but it gives me up every time with the multiple monitors and come on, move on there.
Yeah, so when you go to share, if you use the down arrow, you should be able to choose which screen.
Yep.
There we go. That looks much better. Yes, perfect.
Okay, standing. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Okay.
And I'm going to go off camera just so that we don't take up too much bandwidth and that your audio comes in very clear.
That sounds great. So because I'm on two screens and it's showing on this screen and I'm looking at this screen, so it's going to be a little weird. I'm actually looking at you, but I'm going to be kind of looking over here. So I apologize. Anyway, so again, thank you very much to Michelle and Sean for having me on this and for everyone for joining. Basically just wanted to spend some time just walking through some of the new features that we have in store for Civil 3D 2021. So again, as I mentioned earlier, we released 2021, same general timeframe that we usually have our annual release at Autodesk. So this came out, as I mentioned, April 15th. So we got a lot of really good new features in it that we're pretty excited about, both within Civil 3D itself, as well as some of the kind of related products that, such as like Infraworks. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm going to walk through as far as just better interoperability between those two products, as well as Dynamo for Civil 3D has been a big focus for us for the last couple of releases as well. So we have some new stuff happening in that as well. So fortunately, everything that I'm going to cover today is, for the most part, stuff it's in the shipping product. So this isn't anything that you can't talk about just based on the safe harbor statement that Michelle had mentioned earlier. This is all stuff that's in the product right now. So you can check out 2021 and start experimenting with it and give us your thoughts on it. So really excited about it. First thing that we're going to talk about here is a very, very popular, very long-term customer request for Civil 3D. And this gets into basically our, if I can advance my slide here, pressure network editing tools. So long-standing requests from our customers to make our pressure network editing utility in Civil 3D considerably more flexible. And so what we've done in Civil 3D 2021 is we've made our first large steps in making this workflow considerably easier, in that what you're seeing here is it's basically using a baseline to lay out your pressure network and very quickly lay it out and everything, add your vertices, and then it's intelligent enough now to just, when we committed that that baseline, it basically just kind of drops the correct parts into place. So if you have a series of fittings and bends that need to be in place, it's very quick to add those in without having to go in and drop them in fitting by fitting, pipe by pipe. Now it's just, you just lay out the baseline and it drops the correct fittings in there that you've specified. Much easier than before. A lot of other things that are happening here. It's much easier now to edit things and lay things out in a vertical manner using the pipe network, using the pressure network tools. So you're seeing here on screen, it was just a very quick way to select which profile you want to keep it relative to. And you can then go ahead and add lowerings in nice and easily using the new layout and editing tools. And other things, again, is as you're editing the pipe network, there's a concept of pipe runs that you can use. You can lay out those pipe runs nice and easily, and as you're going to see here in a second, you can even like add them in, add a run in as at an offset to an existing element, such as an alignment. Tie that pipe run into your main run, and it's very easy now to just add a branch fitting and tie those two fittings together, or tie those two runs together rather. And it's again smart enough to use the appropriate part size to tie those two pipe runs together. Other things you're seeing here is just being able to really nicely and quickly, easily lay out bends in your pipe network as well. And so just a lot of really good flexible tools that we've gotten a lot of great feedback from the pressure network layout and editing tools in Civil 3D 2021. And we still have more enhancements that we want to make to them. So this is still definitely a work in progress, but we're very confident, just based on the feedback that we've gotten from customers as we were developing these tools, that they're much more flexible and easy to use than the previous generation of our pressure network layout tools. So that's that one. Next thing I'm going to touch on is, I mentioned Dynamo in my opening remarks. And so if anyone here has started to kind of get a bit more familiar with Dynamo for Civil 3D, you might be familiar with just the Dynamo window that you're seeing here on screen, where it's the nice visual programming language where you can very easily use a lot of the Civil 3D layout and editing tools, or a lot of the Civil 3D objects and AutoCAD objects to kind of script different things. And so what you're seeing here is, in the 2021 release, we added the flexibility of the Dynamo Player in Civil 3D. And so this really opens Dynamo for Civil 3D up to a more general Civil 3D user, where we're envisioning it being where a large organization might have one or two Dynamo experts building scripts and then distributing those Dynamo scripts out to their organization. And then the general user in that organization would be able to really easily use the Dynamo Player that you're seeing here to consume those scripts without having the overhead of the entire Dynamo for Civil 3D running on their screen. They don't have to exit Civil 3D at all. They don't have to open Dynamo at all. They're just using this small interface to set the parameters that are specified in the Dynamo script, and they can very easily just find those scripts, set the parameters correctly, run them within the context of their current model, and it's just a much more flexible and easy way to use Dynamo. And so Dynamo is a super powerful way to just customize Civil 3D and get it to do what you want it to do, and the Dynamo Player makes it that much easier to do that. So really excited about that. Other things that we've done. So for the past couple of years, we have been working very closely with our colleagues at Esri to make Civil 3D and Infraworks talk much more closely with ArcGIS. And so this is kind of our next step in that direction, where just being able to publish out Civil 3D object properties to ArcGIS online. And so what you're seeing here is we have added the ability to publish a very select set of object properties out to ArcGIS Online. And so in this case, you're seeing here, like it's a pipe network. So there are, your pipes and structures have many, many, many properties that go along, that could potentially go along for the ride. But what you might not necessarily want to have every single property that is part of that pipe network or every single structure property go out to ArcGIS Online. You might want to filter out and really only publish out exactly the properties that are appropriate for the consumers of ArcGIS Online. And so that's what this workflow here is showing, where you can actually, as you're going to publish the properties out, you can specify exactly which ones you want, publish it, and then the consumer will only see these properties that you specified. So it just gives us a bit more parity with the workflow that we've had in place for Infraworks for publishing and consuming changes in Infraworks out to ArcGIS Online. And so this just kind of gets us that much closer with Civil 3D to having that same workflow. Other things, so on the corridor front, so again, I mentioned in my opening remarks about just making Infraworks and Civil 3D considerably more easily linked together. And so this is kind of one of our major things that we did here is just being able to have a roadway designer work in Civil 3D and then be able to easily publish out the Civil 3D corridor model from Civil 3D into Infraworks and have an actual like real geometrically accurate and like the corridor model itself being accurately represented in Infraworks. And so what you're seeing here is basically the Civil 3D user created their corridor model in Civil 3D, published it out, and in Infraworks, the Infraworks consumer of that corridor model can actually set a mapping to exactly like what corridor assemblies and sub-assemblies they use, assign materials in Infraworks to each of those, and then get a realistic representation of that model in Infraworks. And again, it's they stay linked together. So as you're seeing here, if the geometry of the corridor changes, if the geometry of the alignment and profile changes, or the assemblies within Civil 3D change, you can easily save those back. And as you see here, just when it gets back into Infraworks, that you can just, as you would with any other Infraworks data source, you can republish or re-import those changes from the Civil 3D DWG, and you get those changes back in reflected in the Infraworks model. So it's a really good way to use the two products together for the strengths that they have. So Civil 3D for the detailed design of the corridor model, of the alignments and profiles, and then Infraworks for the visualization and some of the other really strong suits that Infraworks is good at. Which actually gets us into the next thing that we did. So we spent a great deal of time on, over the course of the past year, to make civil structure design across our AEC portfolio much more powerful. And so basically what we're showing you here is that same kind of workflow where I mentioned earlier, just bringing in that corridor model into Infraworks, and then when it's into Infraworks, you can actually use that corridor model to build a bridge on, like basically using that alignment and profile as a reference to just build a bridge in Infraworks on it. And again, Infraworks has some really powerful bridge modeling tools where you can just use some outstanding tools for things such as just like spreadsheets, being able to like just enter lots of different properties, a whole bunch of great analysis tools within Infraworks for the bridge modeling tool. So being able to like write out reports with really rich data, line girder analysis, all that kind of good stuff, and just kind of get a lot of really powerful bridge tools. And so you're seeing here like some more things that they're doing. And again, if the roadway design changes in Civil 3D, then that's very easily like reconsumed in Infraworks, and so the bridge model will update based on the changes to the corridor model. Same thing, another user that we have focused on here in Revit, the structural engineer. They might be using Revit to detail out some of the bridge components, the piers and the abutments and everything, and doing rebar design and that sort of thing in Revit. So they're all working on the same source of data. So the bridge design itself happening in Infraworks, structural detailing happening in Revit, and the roadway designer actually like using the Civil 3D corridor modeling tools in order to create the roadway itself. So all three of those personas all working in parallel from the same data. All their changes are being kept up to date. And even back in Civil 3D, you're seeing here, those bridge changes are all, they can be brought back into Civil 3D on the corridor model that exists in Civil 3D. They could be projected onto profile views and labeled as you would label any other component in Civil 3D in profile. There are profile styles for the bridge object itself. There are a whole series of profile label styles and a label set that you can use in order to create your general arrangement sheets for your bridge in Civil 3D, just as you would with any other roadway component in Civil 3D. And again, it's just all three of those personas, all three of those products, all working in parallel. It's not a lossy situation where the different teams aren't waiting on each other to finish what they're doing before they can start work. They're all working in parallel. So it's much more powerful than it was in previous releases. And it's a great way for people to work. So we've gotten a lot of great feedback on this change as well. So that's what is in Civil 3D 2021. Wanted to touch really quickly on what's coming. So I'm not going to get Michelle.
Before you do, if you don't
Please.
mind, we do have a few questions. I figured this was to bring those up.
Absolutely.
I've been answering some of them that I know the answers to, but I want to bring them up for everyone to hear the answers, just because I think that's beneficial for everyone. So Renard asked the question, does the pressure networks have HDPE pipes in metric? And yes, they are in metric. You do want to start from a metric template so that you can take advantage of that. But you can also make sure those come in from manually in an imperial template if you have to do that. So, but yes, the question, the answer to that is yes. The next question is from Eduardo, and he's asking, are the changes to the fittings operability being incorporated in the new release of Civil 3D, or is this an update to the 2020 version? And I don't know the answer to that one.
That is, that's in 2021 and forward. Unfortunately, the new pressure network layout tools are not backward compatible to 2020. However, if you create those, if you use the Civil 3D 2021 pressure network layout tools to create your network, if you open that drawing in 2020, those the geometry still all comes across and everything. You just don't have the same workflow capabilities in 2020 as you do in 2021. But that's actually I neglected to mention that. That's always a very popular question. That usually the first question that we get when a new version of Civil 3D comes out is, has the drawing format changed? Has the object format changed? And is there backward compatibility? And yes, there is. So if you create a drawing in Civil 3D 2021, you can still open it back up in 2020, 2019, 2018. So good news there.
Great. And then Narendra is brave enough. The hand is raised, so I'm going to try to unmute that line. And Narendra, I'm getting the message that you're self-muted. So if you are able to unmute yourself, we would love to have you ask your question live. Not going to work. Okay. So Narendra, if you want to just type your question in the Q&A panel, we'll catch it over there. And in the meantime, Tim, I'll let you go ahead and proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure. Okay. So I'll really quickly touch on at least a high-level overview of some of the things that we have in work, or at least how you can find out more information in a more we have a couple of different programs that you can join just to find out more information about kind of what's coming with Civil 3D, and then our Autodesk Civil infrastructure products in general. So what I'll do is, first thing I'll talk about is we've started over the last couple of months creating these public roadmaps that we have them posted up on the Infrastructure Reimagined blog. And so you're seeing here infrastructure-reimagined.com. Really great place for people to go to just find out kind of what are some of our just marketing activities and stuff around where it is that we're going with our products and what's new and what's coming and that sort of thing. You'll see here that I have in Infrastructure Reimagined, if you scroll down, I have there's an Infraworks public roadmap that was very recently published in April. And then there's a Civil 3D public roadmap that was last published in January. I actually have a new version of the public roadmap coming out very, very soon. It should be posted up here within the next week, basically. So if you could just kind of watch this space, you'll be able to see kind of an overview of not only some of the highlights of 2021, but you'll also see what it is that our development teams are currently working on for future releases of Civil 3D. And that could be things that are coming for an update to 21 perhaps, or even longer term things that we are working on as well. So it's a really great way to get like just high level information about what it is that is under consideration for Civil 3D coming in the near future. So the next thing I'll touch on really quickly, one of the other highlights that you'll see up on the Infrastructure Reimagined blog is you'll see a post up there that we are extremely excited that Autodesk recently acquired some new technology from one of our longtime partners. And so if anyone is familiar at all with a product called Project Explorer that was built by a company called 3AM Solutions out of the UK. We acquired that tool recently, and we are incredibly happy about just what some of those kind of just bring some of that functionality into Civil 3D. And so basically Project Explorer, if you can do some research on that tool, you'll get there's some great resources out on the 3AM Solutions website about Project Explorer, but basically just a high level overview of what that tool is and some of its capabilities. You're seeing here on the screen, this isn't the best representation of it, but it's basically, if you think about this, this kind of window that you're seeing here, the general idea behind Project Explorer is it's kind of a different window, a different view into your Civil 3D drawing that you're working on. And so if you're familiar, if you're a Civil 3D user, you must be familiar with Prospector. And so Project Explorer is kind of like a much more powerful version of Prospector that is meant to be a large screen docked on a second monitor ideally. And it's a modeless window that lets you essentially interact with your Civil 3D drawing, your Civil 3D model in a much more fluid manner. So one of the big examples that we always use is like if you are using, let's say for example, if you want to edit an alignment, you want to edit like a specific property of an alignment, there are a lot of, you can find that property just using the core Civil 3D tools by like digging into a couple of different dialog boxes and then changing it and then getting out of that dialog box to make the change. With Project Explorer, it's a nice way to really easily edit those properties in place and see those changes populate in your model dynamically as they're applied in Project Explorer. You can keep Project Explorer open all the time on a monitor and interact with your Civil 3D drawing in model space at the same time with Project Explorer being open at all times. A lot of great functionality with it. Things like being able to swap multiple pipe network parts. It's a long-standing request that we've had for up on the Civil 3D Ideas blog. It's got a really powerful dynamic reporting tool that's associated with it that lets you build custom reports of your Civil 3D models and be able to publish those out in a number of different formats that will remain dynamic to the Civil 3D drawing. Likewise, those reports can be in the form of editable AutoCAD tables within your drawing. So again, two long-standing requests for custom report generation and dynamic AutoCAD tables for Civil 3D objects, both taken care of by Project Explorer. And so we're very excited about it. I can't share yet when this product and some of this functionality will be available to you is in Civil 3D, but just know that it's coming very soon, and we'll have more information about how it's going to become available to you in the very, very near future. So, but with that, and I'm sure I'll probably get a couple questions about that as I move on, but one way that I wanted to give you guys at least a quick bit of information about, you want to know more about kind of what's coming, like not only with some of like Project Explorer, but necessarily like what in general is coming with Civil 3D, what specifically are we working on? There are a couple different ways that you can do that. And so first thing that I'll touch on is we have a kind of an ongoing beta program where it's called the Autodesk Infrastructure Futures Program. And this is all about, it's basically a one single format where we have, it's a kind of a beta community where we have all of our civil infrastructure products, all of our product teams on the Autodesk infrastructure product line team. We post all of our information up there for Civil 3D, for Infraworks, for future technologies such as Project Explorer and some other things that we're working on. It's a great way for us to post early releases or early versions of software that we have under development that isn't going to be available necessarily for a while, but if we have like say for example, we hosted our Civil 3D 2021 beta program up on this portal. And it was a great way for us to get a lot of feedback very quickly as we developed the tools. It let us both post like early versions of the software that you could test out in the workflows and give us feedback on it, and really influence where we were going with some of these new technologies. We have one of the really cool things that we do is every week we have a product team webinar that basically it's all covered under non-disclosure. So when you sign up for this program, this Infrastructure Futures program, you digitally sign a non-disclosure agreement that basically, like, it's kind of like the non-disclosure that the safe harbor statement that Michelle had mentioned at the beginning of this presentation. But it basically just kind of is an agreement that it's a legally binding thing where it kind of tells us that you won't share what you're going to learn from us about our future products, and we won't share anything that we learn about you, like based on you giving our feedback. And so because you signed that agreement, then it lets us be a lot more forthcoming about what it is that we're working on with our products. And so as part of that, we have these weekly webinars where we share specifically like different tools that we might be working on. And we will ask you, like, kind of, for example, if we have a new tool under development, we might show you an early version of that tool and then have you provide feedback each week on how that tool is coming along, and just kind of making sure that we are addressing all of any kind of issues that come up and meeting your expectations with any kind of new tools and technologies that we have under development. So highly encourage you to join the Infrastructure Futures program if you're interested in getting a early look into what it is that we're working on, and if you're especially interested in providing us feedback early during our development program as well. And so how do you join? I have a QR code up here on screen. Please feel free to scan that, and it will take you directly to the Infrastructure Future site where you can join. And for that matter, if you have any questions about that particular program, then please feel free to reach out to me, tim.yaris@autodesk.com, and I can provide you any kind of information about that program as well. If you have questions or problems joining or anything, then happy to help. But that's basically what I wanted to talk about today. Michelle, I'm not sure if there are questions. I expect there would have been questions about some of what I talked about. So
yes,
if there are, fire away.
Yeah, so if you do have additional questions, definitely type them in the question and answer panel, and I will repeat them live for everyone. And in the meantime, Dinkle is brave enough. He's raised his hand in the attendee panel, so I'm going to see if I can unmute you, Dinkle. Are you able to speak with us? Sounds like his mic might not be working. Are you double muted, Dinkle? Oh, no. Okay. All right. So if you do have questions and you want to raise your hand, I'm more than happy to open up your line, or you can type those in the Q&A panel. If no one has any questions, we can give you back some of your day. So let's see who comes in. I don't see anyone raising hands, and let me just make sure I didn't miss any questions. No, I don't see any additional questions. So again, last chance. If you do have some questions, definitely type those in the Q&A panel or raise your hand in the attendee panel, and we can answer those questions live. Otherwise, Tim, thank you so much for joining us and being willing to have this conversation with us. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, of course. We'll give everyone just one more minute and see if anyone is brave enough to ask those questions. Yeah. Oh, I'm just getting some thank yous. So thank you very much. I'm so glad that you guys did join us. I know it might be late for some of you, especially, India and across the world. So thank you for taking the time. We definitely value your being here and love that we can share this knowledge with you. So, okay. Well, I don't see anything else coming in. So thank you, everyone. You have a wonderful day, wonderful evening, whichever it is. And Tim, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for your time, everyone.
Bye, everyone.